All right, Desiree, what I love most about franchisee stories
Yeah.
is before you take this ginormous leap into business ownership as a franchisee,
Yeah.
you've had to have done something quite amazing. So I would love to know what your backstory is and how did you accidentally fall into franchising?
Well, it's kind of an accidental story for sure. I, out of college, went into medical practice management. Then I went into a little bit more corporate America, back to medical practice management, where I was managing a big dermatology office with a day spa or a medical spa. And we would frequent the Woodhouse spas as clients or guests. And we just decided one year, my business partner and I, that there was a Woodhouse spa for sale in the Lone Tree area here, and we decided to purchase it. And so 3 years into that, I came down here and started doing it full time. And 13 years later, here we are.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so a few things I want to unpack there. So from the time you decide, you hear that Woodhouse is available for sale, to the time you open, how much time did that take, and what was going through your head through the process of doing due diligence? How fast did that process move?
It actually went pretty quickly. The person who owned it at the time was pretty ready to get out from under it. She had actually moved out of state, so it moved pretty quickly. Within 6 months, we had completely taken over.
Was there anything that was scary about that process? Like,
Yeah,
what's going on emotionally?
Yeah, it was actually really scary because neither one of us had ever done anything like this on our own. We'd always worked for other people all our lives, but my parents were entrepreneurs, and Amber, my business partner, is actually in medicine. She's a dermatology PA, so she spent a lot of time in school and has a great education. And so this was a little bit outside of her comfort zone too, but we just decided we're going to do it. We'd worked together for 12 years at that time, and we decided we're going to do this together, and here we are.
You're pressing through this process. Did you have time to do due diligence? Are you calling other franchise owners? Are you talking to peers?
We did. Luckily, the individual, the lady who owned the Denver Woodhouse Spa at the time, she was a lot of help to us. She helped us through the process. She had put us in touch with several people that we were able to speak to as well. And then the other thing that was super helpful is that Woodhouse does they call it a family reunion one time a year. And so that happened for us pretty closely after we purchased it. So we were able to, mingle and get to know other franchisees, and it helped us a lot. Everybody was super helpful.
So you get the keys, you take over. Where does the dream go at that moment? And what's the dream look like today?
So the dream was more like a nightmare for a little while. We actually had been located next to a cigar bar when we took over in Lone Tree. So we ended up having to move it out of there, but it was a complete blessing because we were able to move into the location we are now in Castle Pines Village. And it's been just uphill ever since. We have done nothing but just grow and been super successful down here in this amazing community of people. And the dream going forward is that in November of this year, we will have opened our second location.
Awesome.
And we're opening in the Briargate area of Colorado Springs. So we're super excited about that. Construction has started and we're moving forward with that as well.
If you go back to some of those early nightmares, was there moments where it was hard for you to see what the future was going to look like, that you felt like you're just in a tough spot? And then obviously as you battle through, it only makes you stronger, which is why you open up your second location.
Yeah.
But did it feel like you were stuck at any point?
There was a couple of moments in there where it felt like, gosh, this is a little bit harder than we thought it was going to be. Like this was not going quite the way we thought it was going to be. But the other thing that is really important here is that we maintained the same employees that we had that were already at the location when we purchased it. So bringing them along with us and not having that as turnover as well really helped. They were just completely the backbone of everything that we did because they were so committed to us and our success. And that was really helpful. And so this community just down here welcomed us with open arms, and we just really got busier and busier every year since.
All right, so your next one's going to open in November.
Yeah.
Which is really the third time you're going through this, because you bought one, you moved one, and now you're building one. Does it feel familiar, or are you able to navigate the stress of building a business differently? Like what's it like today?
It's interesting because this one, I always tell everybody I'm going to do the other one, the new one, a little bit different, which is great because you kind of get a clean slate. You kind of think, oh, I'm going to start doing this earlier. So you've already experienced things that you've done and maybe failed at or could have done better. So now we have that whole list of things and we start out a different way. One thing that comes to mind immediately is how we market, how we launch this new spa. Like it's a whole different strategy than what we did with this one. Obviously, two different scenarios, but we've got a great strategy around what to do next. And we're looking forward to that. We'll bring on our marketing team right away. We'll actually start selling gift cards before we open. Like we have a good strategy.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with several franchisees just from various units and brands where we talk about how they value the dollar. Mm-hmm. Some franchise owners value a dollar as in what's my return today, and some say, how do I build this so my return 10 years from now is greater than it would have been if I looked at it in a narrow mindset. Do you feel like going into this, you had the ability to look at the long-term value of what you're building from an enterprise value, or has that been something that you've learned over time?
No, I feel like we can look at the value going forward. I think that the new location is going to be quite a bit different than this one. And one of the reasons that we picked this location was because the walkability for gift card sales is going to be completely different than what it is in Castle Pines Village, where we're in a gated community, 5 different gates of golf course communities, not a lot of walkable shopping. It's going to be completely there. So we're kind of building on that.
You said that you grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. Do you look in the mirror and say, I'm an entrepreneur today? Have you given yourself that badge? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I definitely am. I always got new ideas. We're always coming up with new things to do. And this, was important to us. We were going to open this. We were going to sign a lease right before COVID hit. We literally were in lease negotiations, had an LOI that we were going to sign, and then we closed down 3 days later. So we were going to do this a long time ago. It's just that it wasn't the right time. And then they came back to us and said they had a space open. It's the only place we wanted to go, which worked out somehow. Like it's meant to be. So we're going to be super successful.
If there's someone watching us up to this point and they're, and I do think buying a business, starting a business, there's plenty of moments where you walk up to the edge and then you say, no, I'm not going to do it. And you go back. But what would you advise them to help them be comfortable with the idea of going into franchise ownership?
Well, I think the great thing about franchise ownership, I think it's two things, really. I think it builds a structure for you. So things that you don't have to think about. I don't have to think about a lot of marketing materials. I don't have to think about branding. I don't have to think about any of that. That's already done for me. So that frees you up to be more creative with hiring or scheduling or some other things that are really important. That's one thing. And I think the other really powerful thing is the effect of the relationships with the other franchisees. And this franchise used to be founder owned for the longest, and it was sold a few years ago. And this brand has just become stronger, more franchisees, and we still get together every other year. And that's really the cornerstone of all this, is just the collaboration with the franchisees.
Well, I mean, it's cool to hear that, because there are plenty of franchisors that exit or make a transition, and then the franchisees say the culture is just not the same. What I just heard is the culture continues to grow and it's protected.
Yeah, this is a tight-knit group of franchisees.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your story with us today. I think it's awesome. Best of luck opening number 2. That you will now be a multi-unit franchisee.
I will be a multi-unit owner, yes.
Pretty cool. So Desiree, thanks for sharing your story. For Desiree, I'm Nick. This is another episode.
Thank you, Nick.
Meet the Z.